What up? Welcome to the Scripted Violence Podcast, talking all things professional wrestling, WWE, AEW. I'm your boy, Adam Taylor. I'm joined by my homie, compadre, co-host in crime, Mr. Billy Calabrese. What's poppin', Billy?
What's going on? We're here.
Today, we wanted to talk about Danhausen and the over-the-top introduction he got to the WWE audience at Elimination Chamber, and then obviously what we saw from him on Raw. He's been popping up on my timeline a bunch, doing a few cool interviews. Him and Pepsi Phil. I love that name, by the way, for CM Punk. Pepsi Phil's the one. I was never huge on Danhausen in AEW. I wasn't against him. I thought that he's definitely more of a WWE character. AEW seems to take themselves a little bit more seriously than what the Danhausen character could do for them. He's already cursing people. He's already cursed Dominic Mysterio, and we're going to be having a good time with Danhausen. I think his brand of comedy is going to be really welcome to the WWE universe. Billy, I know you're a big Danhausen guy, and I know a lot of people out there right now are not. So I thought we could be a really good conversation to see where you're at with Danhausen, what you thought of the intro, and what you're expecting from him.
Dude, I got the biggest pop from that introduction. I mean, the goth baddies, the 60s kind of Monster Mash style song, the dancing. I mean, it was all just so wonderful. And it was the kind of thing that AEW hasn't really figured out yet, but WWE can do comedy like that so well. Like, I mean, R-Truth's a great example of this. Like, he's gotten over by being able to do kind of over the top stuff like this. But the way, like I said, Danhausen's doing it with the baddies. He's already interacting with Adam Pearce and he's already cursing people. Everybody on the internet complaining about this, like, you guys are all going to be cursed because the merch is already selling well. We already got reports of that. Dude, this is going to be so over. It's going to make like Fandango and a lot of the other like corny, like, WWE little trends. It's going to blow all those out of the water.
I think the biggest issue with him in AEW was in AEW, if you want to be a sustainable member of that rotation, you need to be a really good in-ring performer. Whereas in WWE, there's so many different avenues for you to succeed. You can be this great in-ring guy if you can blend that with your ability to do promos, to storytell in-ring and on the mic, you can pop. And then you also have the comedy, fun, kind of break up the episode type of vignette or like cutscene that's really going to make him people fall in love with him. Like the same, like you mentioned, R-Truth. I think R-Truth is a much better in-ring guy than what Danhausen is. But the truth is, Danhausen doesn't really need to wrestle all that much in order for him to be successful in the WWE. They've brought him in there to be a bit of a palate cleanser mid-show, somebody that you can becomes quotable, somebody that everybody just falls in love with for the comedy value. And if he gets tossed around the ring here and there, then so be it. I do think he's quite funny though. Like his brand of comedy really does get to me. It makes me laugh. I'd like to see some segments with him and R-Truth in there. I think that could be funny. Him and The Miz could work out quite funny as well. The fact they've put him in with the Judgment Day in that first segment, just cursing Dom Mysterio and then giving JD McDonough a little bit of grief as well, just being like, I don't, what's your name? What's your name? That to me is just a really great start because he's being thrust into, I wouldn't say a storyline, but at least given this opportunity that now with Dom goes on a bit of a run and it's a negative run, maybe he drops some titles, he gets his ass whooped a few times. That they want to build the validity of this curse. Like if you're cursed by Danhausen, it's actually going to be impactful in storylines, or at least that's the way I hope they go to begin with, just because it's so like funny and so kind of quirky. The intro, though, at Elimination Chamber, I do think they probably built that up a little bit too much. And main reason being, I'm just not sure that enough of the WWE fan base knew exactly who Danhausen was. Like, if you could argue that a large portion of them did, but I think that you see the AEW numbers, and look, I'm an AEW guy, I'm a wrestling guy. That period, I watch all promotions, New Japan, whatever it may be. I do think that Danhausen was probably a bit of an anomaly to a lot of the people in attendance, or at least a lot of the people that were watching as well. So I do think they over promised on that with all the crate show, like the crate build up and then the amount of money they put into that. It felt like he had a bigger introduction than Royce Keys, arguably than Cody Rhodes. Like they pumped a lot into his like intro.
Yeah, and I think the fans that are kind of mad at it were just mad because they wanted it to be somebody else. Like for some reason, people wanted that to be Jericho in that spot, which is like, really? Like, you'd rather go back to that than have something new? But I think people underestimate like how a great theme can get you over. And that theme and that entrance, that is going to catch on so much, and it's so catchy. It's so much fun. You're going to have like people dancing in the audience. Like, I really think that's going to be the kind of thing that can get somebody like Danhausen over.
And this kind of like you've just kind of touched a point with me that's really annoying me. So I'm going to tell you something that's grinding my gears right now, and it's been grinding my gears for a minute. And I'm coming off Danhausen. We'll circle back, but this dancing in the audience and having this great theme getting you over is exactly what got Swerve Strickland over in AEW. So when they changed his music
Mm.
from Swerve Till I Drive to whatever the hell that is now, like that pissed me off because it's not danceable no more. You don't see people really doing the swerve on the entrance the way they did because the track just isn't as like energetic as what his original track was. And I feel like when it's clear that something's working, you run with it until it stops working. It was the same with the acclaim. The acclaimed reached this like incredible level of like everybody was tuning in to watch the acclaimed, and then all of a sudden one day they just they stopped pushing them. They were still one of the top merchandise sellers on the show. They were still one of the biggest draws on the show, and then they just got split up, and that was it. We were done. We're moving on. We got bored. Whereas what WWE will do with Danhausen is if they see that fans are reacting to certain facets of his character or his intro, like his entrance, they're going to double down on that and they're going to try and elaborate on that more and more and build him up into a bigger and bigger star. And I think that that's what makes WWE excel at the moment, like period, is they just know how to find angles that build guys or girls characters into a star level thing. And not everybody's going to be a superstar. Danhausen will not be a guy that you are like, he is a top five guy who I want to see in WWE, but he will be a guy that when he comes on screen, you don't fast forward, you don't go to get a drink, like you actually you don't want to miss it because you know it's going to be some funny little detail or funny little comment that's going to make you pop up for a week or two, or it's going to be quotable with your boys when you're at the bar or whatever it may be. And that is important because retention time, as anybody watching YouTube will hear all the time, is just as important as quality. So if you can get someone like Danhausen to give you a bit of retention time each week while pushing merch, it's a win.
Yeah, it's such a good point about WWE because you can make the case that sometimes they let gimmicks go on too long, like the aforementioned from Fandango. But the thing is, at least they'll let the audience get sick of it instead of taking it away when the audience is still eating it up. And I do think that's an important difference because I still have my acclaim jersey in my closet, and I'm pretty upset that like I can't really rock that because they pulled it way too early when they were at the peak of their powers. So I do think that there is a good balance. Maybe WWE does hold on a little too long to stuff and it's like we're all ready to move on. But I'd rather have that than the opposite when I want more. And it's like, where's my favorite, intro? Where's my favorite guys?
Yeah, and that was my biggest issue with the acclaimed was I was like, there was still a lot they could have done. Like you're still running with FTR, and I feel like FTR have kind of gone cold right now because you've kind of like messed with their characters. The heel turn worked for a minute and now it's not working. I'd much rather, as you say, hold on too long than not hold on long enough. And WWE might make you hold on too long, but when it's over and you go back a year or two, like the bloodline, they held on to they squeezed every piece of juice out of that storyline that they possibly could. But now it's over. I find myself being like, I kind of want to go back and watch the Bloodline all the way through, or like watch like a 30-minute highlight of the Bloodline saga from start to finish again. And sometimes going too long gives you that retrospective for people to go back and rewatch and re-enjoy and to really build characters up. So when they do segue, like Jey Uso, when he came out of the Bloodline and went solo, and then all of a sudden started to become this massive success as a solo star, and in success on again, he's got an entrance that makes everybody dance. He's got so many different areas to him. I think part of that is because you held on to the bloodline for so long that when Jay went solo, it gave you a fresh perspective while kind of being within that bloodline territory, and it created a whole new lane. And I think that WWE just do such a great job. I could see Danhausen doing that. Maybe part of me sees him as being like a manager type guy for CM Punk and just cursing anybody that tries to get involved in Punk's matches or is winning against Punk, and then Danhausen will curse them, and then they'll lose, and it'll become this funny thing. But overall, I think, it's not a bad pickup by the WWE at all. He's somebody that fits their brand very, very well.
Yeah, and that's something that, like, his talent is so unique too. It can work with top stars like the CM Punks of the world, or it could bring up like bottom level guys that, we don't even think of at the bottom of the roster. Like I always think of back in the day, like when The Rock would interact with, whoever, and he'd be able to elevate guys. Like you can put Punk and Danhausen in a segment and you're gonna have gold. It's gonna be retweeted all night. Like them when he was still in AEW, them buying comic books, and he's like buying like a Spider-Man #1 and just maxing out CM Punk's credit card is like some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen.
It's going to be great. Honestly, I think it's going to be such a good twist, a good new fresh angle. Again, it all depends what creative do. A lot, and creative in WWE is going through a little bit of a transition right now because Road Dogg decided he was done and he left, and they've just promoted. I saw there was somebody had been received the promotion. So creative is going through it a little bit right now. But at the same time, that's a good thing because now there's going to be fresh ideas, fresh perspectives, and clearly they're trying to push Danhausen. Otherwise, they wouldn't have instantly put him into a segment on Raw with the Judgment Day. And it's different from like what Royce Keys is going through and what Jade Cargill went through, and a lot of the other people a lot of the other people from AEW, where they have to spend a bit of time at the Performance Center learning the WWE way. Because Danhausen won't be in the ring as often, he's going to be a guy that's going to be on TV weekly where you can kind of just get to know his character and enjoy it. So yeah, I think this was a good pickup for WWE. I think his introduction to the fan base might have been a little bit grandiose for what it was, but overall, like solid. I'm happy. I'm looking forward to Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, and these things evolve. Like, remember when they, introduced New Day? It was like a gospel gimmick. Like, it was very different than what it ended up being. I do think that Danhausen's closer to what he is going to be in WWE than, like, say, New Day was. But these things evolve, and like they, kind of let him get his feet wet, let him figure it out. But I think the theme song was the first step. That's something everybody's gonna love. The very nice, very evil. It's so catchy. The girls with him is a great idea to give him a little like gothy baddie entourage. And like I said, you're gonna be dancing when he comes out, man. You can't help it.
With that, everybody, welcome to Scripted Violence. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. But we'll stick around. We're going to try and do some cool stuff. We're just trying to get our rhythm. So very early, get in on the ground floor. Watch us as we evolve. We appreciate y'all. Catch you soon. Peace.
Peace.